Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. We're really excited for this session, modernizing mainframe security through the lens of an insurance organization. Not only are we joined by John Pinkowski and myself to lead this session, but we have a special guest, James. He's actually Superman at Legal in General when it comes to IAM. And in this session, we're going to be covering a few great topics. One, as you guys may be aware, ACF2 and top secret version 17 is GA. So we'll talk about some of the things there. But more importantly, and this is very critical, James is going to be talking about how he's modernizing mainframe security at Legal in General. And you may think there's basic blocking and tackling things that he's doing, but he's driving full automation across the identity lifecycle. And this is really an exciting session to learn what are some of the organizations leveraging mainframe security tools and how they're modernizing that across both mainframe and distributed security and aligning that to a broader hybrid IT and identity and access management strategy. So with that, there's a standard disclaimer here. We're going to be talking about forward-looking items. This is because we want to give you insights into what's going on. But of course, the standard disclaimers are at the sole discretion of Broadcom's trajectory and what we want to deliver. But we're always looking for your input and feedback. So a quick business introduction in terms of what we're talking about. We're going to be talking about ACF2, top secret, and cleanup topics. You're going to be able to understand what are some actions you can take as you move from your existing version 16 to version 17. But more importantly, and this is really where we would like to focus a lot of the conversation and a lot of the actions, is hear from what is James doing and how he's able to drive success and business outcomes at Legal in General when it comes to mainframe security. So an outcome of this will be leveraging some of the insights and best practices James shares and being able to bring that back to your organization to ensure that you're at the most robust security posture when it comes through mainframe identity and access management and security. The agenda is going to be pretty straightforward. James will share his story, some of the challenges, best practices. We'll talk about some of the topics related to ACF2 and top secret version 17 updates, as well as best practices in migration. This isn't necessarily going to be comprehensive, but it's going to give you an overview of what are the things to consider. We'll talk about the ACF2 top secret and cleanup roadmap led by John. And then we'll talk about some additional information that may be important for you, not only just being aware of what's available, but also some of the activities, for example, the user group that we've reignited and have been running for about a year now. And we're going to be entering our 10th user group session. But we'll be talking about the other resources available to you as well. So with that, let me hand it over to James and let James give you an overview of what he's up to.
Thank you very much. So for those of you who don't know, Legal in General is a UK-based company with a global presence. We are one of the largest pension providers in the UK and one of the largest asset management companies in the UK. Mainframes are central to our operations. We've had a mainframe for decades, and it runs our most critical processes. So because our mainframe has been around for decades, it was used at a time where it was the only computer system within the organization. And because of that, one of the issues we face is a complete security database full of security rules dating back decades, resulting in an over-provisioning of access across users, inconsistent access within teams, and a lack of application understanding and the required access needed to use those applications. So we tackled this problem using SailPoint and the tools provided by Broadcom with the ACF2 package, and also Cleanup. And because we experienced both problems with human identities and non-human identities. So with both identities, there's an overlap in some of the issues, the main one being over-provisioning of access. This is present on both human and non-human accounts, with the difference being that the non-human identities have a much higher level of access. For example, on databases, it's the non-human identities that have the update and delete privileges to data, where a human ID would have read access or access to individual transactions. We also had problems where historically, when someone new joined a team, they would copy the access of an existing user in the organization, and that user that they've copied the access from may have had access from multiple different roles over their career within the organization, again, leading to an over-provisioning of access. With non-human identities, additional problems we have is that we don't know what the accounts are being used for, potentially. Some accounts have been used for more than one application, shared usage, and they're the highest risk in terms of the level of access, but also the highest risk to remove access because it could cause critical batch failures, data integrity issues. So over the next few slides, I will explain how we tackled this. So SailPoint was a key part to how we tackled the human identity issue. And SailPoint can help with a lot of functionality to manage accounts out of the box. First of all, it can pull in all of the accounts, identify patterns between them. You can filter on account attributes, and straight out of the box, it can perform operations such as account deprovisioning within ACF2 top secret, recertification campaigns, and password reset capabilities. Now, the SailPoint connector it's the same install for same started task for both top secret and ACF2, and they've worked closely with Broadcom to ensure that the SailPoint connector can leverage the most out of ACF2. And some of the decision criteria is there on the left-hand side, which would help you determine where to start with an automated connector to your ESM. Yeah, some of the challenges with starting with ACF2 and the automated connector is the lack of technical system knowledge, lack of the business knowledge as well. And when you do speak to the business, the teams within the business often do not know what they're using. That they would know it by the name within that team, but that wouldn't match the technical name in the back end, for example, the kicks transactions, etc. A fear of change with the mainframe in particular, because it has those critical applications. Whenever someone wants to make a change, people feel worried. So there's enhanced due diligence there before we can make those changes, and the interfaces and dependencies are often not understood. When it comes to ACF2, there's two ways you can go for provisioning access. You can either use ACF2 roles. So these work in, you can group access into a role, add a user to a role, and they will get the access provided by that role. These are easier to understand when discussed within the business, the auditors, and also within the in-house IAM teams, because they function similar to Active Directory with the Active Directory users and groups concept. They also allow for out-of-the-box access provisioning with IGA solutions such as SailPoint. Multiple roles can be provisioned per user, and segregation of duty policies and reports alerting can also be configured through the IGA products. SailPoint can also use the role discovery to scan the system for the roles and generate insights such as if there's 10 people in a team and 8 people have a role and 2 people within the team don't have a role, those types of insights can be flagged by the IGA tools. The rule set, ACF2 rule sets, they can be provisioned as well via SailPoint. However, it's important to note that the rule sets, they're based on the UID string. So these are classed as account attributes rather than entitlements, but in reality, they are entitlements. A good user ID string is essentially a role. And where possible with UID strings and access rules, try to avoid writing individual access rules for single users. At L&G, we've gone for a mix of both here. So we've provisioned base access within a team using rule sets because historically our access was set up as rule set based and we didn't want to convert the entire ESM to use role sets. That would have taken a lot of time and we didn't need to do this to achieve our goal of provisioning. So we provision the base access and access within a team for the business, but with the applications, an example being OM View for output management. Some users within teams, there'd be maybe a few teams that have a handful of users requiring that. So we converted that access into a role set, which is requestable and automatically provisioned. So the SailPoint mainframe connector for ACF2 can perform the following functions: account creation, including any after create scripts that need to be run, for example, ISPF profile allocations, account disablement and removal, automatic self-service password reset, and it can also manage, it can also connect into DB2 and manage DB2 entitlements. What the SailPoint connector cannot do, and this is true for both human accounts and also non-human accounts, is perform a cleanup, custom provisioning for applications outside of your mainframe ESM, and any rule creation of the actual rules, and configuration of those. So our provisioning journey, a good starting point with automated provisioning is to completely understand what your provisioning journey looks like end to end for your most basic user with a simple level of access and the most complex user. This will help you decide where to start. It may be that if 80% of your users do not use TSO, you could develop automated provisioning just for those 80% and cut out the majority of manual creation tasks. So that's why I recommend completely defining your journey. Ours looked something like the left-hand side, where we had the ACF2 account at the top. Then we had VTAM session managers. We had custom CICS-based access control systems. You can see the role provisioning there. That's where we started first. So we didn't actually start with the user account creation. We started with what we could do out of the box, and that was the automated role provisioning. So we did the account disablements and the automated role provisioning using ACF2 role sets. And we then proceeded to perform account creations. Some of the other challenges, as you can see on the right, was individual transaction access requests, Unix system services access, non-standard dataset access. And this is access without a role. When we get these types of requests coming in, we're still working through it. We're still on that journey. We're tidying up all the individual access requests that people have, the individual security rules, and putting those into roles or removing them where appropriate. In terms of cleanup, it makes life a lot easier if within your ESM you are only looking at what is required to be there. So step one is a prerequisite step is to clean up your ESM database. And there are a wide range of tools, some really powerful tools from Broadcom that help with this. So we started with non-human accounts, and our first step with these was to remove any accounts that are no longer used. And we used the cleanup product, which is a started task that sits on your system and it monitors the SAF. So any account that is being used in the system, the last access date will be recorded by cleanup, and also any account which is referred to will be logged, and it will be available in that cleanup report. So first of all, when we perform this, we ran a cleanup report. We went through the accounts. We suspended them first. 2 weeks later, we deleted the accounts. We engaged the incident teams just in case. We spoke to the major incident teams and we said we're performing this activity, and it's important to do this step because again, this is a concern amongst organizations that they're scared to delete an account because they're not 100% sure what it's doing. It might break something. I would say it's better to take that risk, perform the analysis, use tools like cleanup to help, but it's better to remove the account than have an account sitting there, which is a risk in itself. And if that account's compromised, it could cause damage to the system and the organization's reputation. We found our ideal time window to action account suspensions was mid-afternoon. This is because if jobs were to fail or there to be issues, it was better for us to identify these at the end of the working day rather than first thing in the morning at the start of the day. And for human accounts, we just removed any accounts that were no longer used, and we have an automated script to do this now. After removing accounts, this is for ACF2 specifically, after removing accounts, you can use the ACF2 rule cleanup utility, and that will remove any individual access rules that were written into the ACF2 database for that particular account. For me, this is the most satisfying part because with some accounts that I deleted, non-human accounts, I was able to delete up to 300 rules per account. So that was really helping with the cleanup exercise. So as I previously mentioned, when mainframes have been around for decades, and at that point in time they predated passwords, and there wasn't the concept of least privileged access. People could only access the systems internally through a set number of terminals within the organization. So there wasn't the entry points that we have in the system today. And another point is that the mainframe pen tests are usually focused on specific applications and critical data sets, and not general data sets containing business data. And cleanup monitors all the access in the system across DB2. If you have your DB2 access control through ACF2 as resource rules, and when you run a cleanup report, it will also generate a file containing all of the commands to revert the changes. This is really useful because um, your backout plan for the change is already written for you. It would just be a case of running the backout job with the backout report, and that will recreate all of the access that was removed. In some cases, if an individual rule under a key was removed, it will have the command to add the individual key, and where the entire key has been deleted, it will have all the commands to rebuild that key within ACF2. So the best practice for using cleanup is to, well, if you haven't got it installed, get it installed and have that starting as soon as ACF2 starts. So it's monitoring all the access from early on in the system. The longer that cleanup has been running, the better the results will be. We started off with the Broadcom recommended starting point of 455 days. We felt that this is a good starting point to clean up access, as it would take into account batch jobs that only complete once a year, or data sets that are accessed by processes or people yearly as part of year-end processing. But yeah, the longer you have been running cleanup, the more you will get out of it. So we started this year using cleanup. It had been running on our system for 4 years plus, and we didn't utilize it until this year. And since we have been using it since the start of this year, we have deleted a third of our ACF2 database. How we work this out, we decompiled the entire database into a sequential data set, and the number of lines has reduced by a third. We've deleted 350 plus user accounts and 250 non-human accounts. We only had 2 P3 incidents on batch failures. This was due to an unusual situation, and I don't actually think cleanup was used in that report. We were just using that based on the last access date on the account, and there was a process referring to the account. Cleanup would pick those up. By the end of the year, we estimate we'll be able to delete another third of the database, meaning that it will be a third of the original size, and it will facilitate the removal of many next keys within our system, which will make the database more efficient. So going forward, we'll use cleanup ongoing with frequent reports. And since we've started this process, we've actually had areas of the business reach out to us and say, we'd like to lock down our access further. So it has been very positively received.
Awesome, James. Thanks for sharing that. And what's really impressive about that is not only did you use the technology, but I think the key thing that is very impressive about the journey that you led as part of the strategy was you were able to shift the mindset and the people and process aspect of it as well. Going from what you had from the security database and only representing, from your estimates, only needing a third of that is critical, especially when you think about reducing the security exposure and footprint. So that is very impressive. And doing that and aligning it to your hybrid IT strategy from a security standpoint, it's not a small feat to overcome. So thanks for sharing that, James. And now what we'll do is we'll transition to the ACF2 and top secret version 17 GA. And just a quick note about this is we're going to be talking about ACF2 and top secret version 17, but as part of that, your use of cleanup can be compounded on top of that as part of not only doing the access and authorization, which we'll get into with version 17 with ACF2 and top secret, but then the continued identity security posture and lifecycle management that James alluded to. So the use of ACF2 and top secret and then compounding that with cleanup really gives you that core foundation needed in ensuring proper security and identity and access management hygiene. ACF2 and Top Secret version 17 are generally available. They were generally available as of March 2026. We've actually had a few folks migrate fully to version 17 and have positive feedback. There's 4 key tenets that are available, that are driven as part of this release. The first thing is pretty critical, right? The security of yesterday is not the security of today and tomorrow. And part of that required us to rethink what are some of the enhanced security controls that we need to enable by default. So I'll talk about some of these in detail, but this isn't just going to stop at 17. There are continued things that we are looking at that, given the nature of how security has shifted, how threat vectors are being exploited by hackers, and the native controls that we want in place to ensure that ACF2 and Top Secret are positioned for today and tomorrow's security, there's going to be continued things that we're going to be doing related to this key tenet of ACF2 and Top Secret. The second tenet is all around platform currency across the mainframe ecosystem. So this is not just the mainframe itself, right? So making sure we're at the currencies of various subsystems, but also how we interact with the broader security stack within an enterprise. And this includes distributed tools, for example, just like SailPoint, of what James alluded to. So we'll talk about some of the things that are relevant there. The third key tenet here is continued performance and scalability enhancements. John likes to say, right, the workloads are shifting. The profile of workloads are shifting. What that means is, even though workloads may be moving off the mainframe, the need for the authorization checks and the access checks still rely on ACF2 and Top Secret data. The login flows may not be happening there, but extract calls may be happening that then take the authorization information needed to pass it to applications that may be processing workload off platform. And to align to that, there are things that we've done to make sure that that scale that you expect from ACF2 and Top Secret continues, even though the workload profiles continue to change over time. And then the last thing is all around modern experiences to align to hybrid IT. You heard it in terms of the integrations with various distributed tools. But one of the things that we're starting to look at now that version 17 is generally available, is looking at modern interfaces. One of the first things that we've exposed is a core set of RESTful APIs to enable full end-to-end password reset flows that run natively on platform. And you'll hear more about that in other sessions during this MTE. But this is going to be the start of wanting to work and wanting to understand where are the modern interfaces that need to be exposed to simplify administration, for example, to automate some of the security activities that happen on a day-to-day basis. So now let's dive deeper into tenet number 1. So enhanced security controls enabled by default. So there's 2 key things that I want to convey here. One related to Top Secret, one related to ACF2. We'll start with Top Secret first. So NoPW is a property that can be set on ACIDs that basically do not require an ACID to have a password to be able to log in or perform actions from an authentication standpoint. Back in the day, this was typically used for starter tasks, but through the lore and through the complexity of enterprises, the NoPW property typically got misused for users. And given the current nature of where we want to enforce controls for security, the NoPW option is not going to be supported in version 17. What this means is, prior to moving to version 17 for Top Secret, if you are currently using NoPW in version 16, you are going to be required to mitigate those ACIDs that are set with NoPW, either by doing one of the following: adding and ensuring that that ACID has a password set to it, or putting that ACID into protected mode. And there's best practices available with our Broadcom STIGs in terms of ensuring that you have a smooth migration and mitigating NoPW. But it is going to be a fundamental and a hard requirement as you move to version 17 that in version 16, your NoPW ACIDs have been mitigated prior to moving to 17. And part of this will give you as part of the STIG and as part of the tooling that we provided, being able to do soft and hard enforcement of NoPW, having that visibility and being able to query which ACIDs are set to NoPW. The second thing that is critical, and this is again on the ACF2 side, is job from surrogate checking. Again, part of this is making sure that there's full auditability and surrogate checking as part of delegated submission of jobs, and ensuring that those jobs and the lids that are submitting those jobs are scoped via surrogate checking. Again, best practices are available in the Broadcom STIGs. The job from will work, but the guidance here is to make sure that you have the proper surrogate checking in place to ensure that proper scoping. And then the last thing we'd like to do as part of all of these conversations, especially with the looming threats of the potential of what quantum computing can not only offer from a Good Samaritan standpoint, but we know that threat actors are going to use quantum as a way to do nefarious things. And part of this is ensuring that from a security standpoint, the settings and configuration are set to the most modern and quantum resistant settings. And by doing so, moving to AES 256 encryption allows you to be set up for the security of today and tomorrow, given that AES 256 is the only encryption model that is available, at least in the context of encrypting credentials in the ACF2 and top secret database, to be quantum resistant. So the guidance here is, as you look at the migration from 16 to 17 for both ACF2 and or top secret, look at what it means to move to the latest encryption with AES 256 if you have not done that so far. The second tenet here is around platform currency and ecosystem compatibility. So we ran a pre-GA program for 9 months, working with early customers as well as vendors. And this allowed us to ensure the quality remained up to snuff with what is needed in production settings as we release the version 17 release. So we went through a proper currency and compatibility validation with the operating system and the subsystems. You'll see that even as part of our pre-GA, we were pre-GA participants as part of the ZOS 3.2 release. Of course, there's a breadth of tooling. This is just the highlights of a few things. And one of the things that we were able to collaborate with IBM on is Connect Direct, or NDM, in which, given the shift and the requirement to mitigate NoPW and top secret, we made sure that the proper capabilities were at parity with the other ESMs when using TSS protected with lids that required the protected attribute as a way to mitigate NoPW. And then, of course, there's ecosystem tooling. So we work with the various vendors. This is just a subset of the exhaustive list of the folks that we work with, and ensuring that, again, making sure that the quality of ACF2 and top secret, as we continue to evolve and as workloads change, continue to provide the same availability and scalability that you continue to expect. And this is something that we will continue and always continue to do with our vendors and ecosystem tooling as part of, the foundation of what ACF2 and top secret provide from a security standpoint on the mainframe. Now, you guys may be wondering, so here it is. As part of the announce of ACF2 and top secret version 17, we also announced the end of service for ACF2 and top secret version 16. We're giving a 2-year window, 24 months from the GA of ACF2 and top secret version 17. So that happened on March 16th, 2026. So that gives you until March 16th, 2028 to migrate from version 16 to 17. As part of this process, we offer a few things as part of our Beyond Code offer. We offer expert change planning. We will work with you, help you identify best practices, help you go through potential user exits that you may have defined or custom exits that may need to be reconsidered as part of the migration, ensuring that you have the proper permutation and validation done. Now what we'll switch to is just some of the best practices as you move from version 16 to 17. This is just going to be a overarching best practice requirement, best practices guidance. we can definitely share more detailed, and the more details are also available in our tech docs. But if you're interested in having a specific conversation on this, please reach out to John or myself. So, general considerations as you're migrating from version 16 to 17. And this is less about there's nothing new as part of this. This is more so about reiterating what it means to perform migrations. So, number one, and this is one of the more important things to understand, there's no conversion or reformatting or recompiling of the security database. What that allows us to do is, well, allows us to deliver that experience, but what that allows you to do as you're performing that migration is you can have a heterogeneous deployment of version 16 and 17. And both version 16 and 17, if they're sharing the same database, are able to do so in a consistent manner without having to perform any recompilation or formatting, right? So that allows you to slowly roll out version 17 while continuing to use version 16 as part of that heterogeneous deployment as you perform those migrations. Installation and upgrades are available through Zeosa MEF and SMPE. So whichever your organization likes to use, both of those are available. Ensure all customizations are reassembled and relinked to make sure that it is, recompiled, and ensure that, all those customizations continue to work as they are. We're also seeing this as a good opportunity to revisit custom exits to see if they're actually still needed, right? So this is a good opportunity to do that inventory, and as part of that migration, validate it if those things are still needed. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to simplify and centralize security, and removing anything that is unnecessary is definitely an efficiency gain as you perform the migration. And then the other thing is just to make sure that you're on the latest maintenance. So this is a two-way street. Ensure that your version 16 is on the latest maintenance as you prep for 17, and then ensure other products that are contingent on ACF2 and top secret compatibility are at the latest version as well. And you're able to do that and find that through this fixcat operation to be able to ensure that things like cleanup or other tools are at the latest maintenance that then require compatibility back to ACF2 and top secret version 17. A quick data point here, and your mileage definitely will vary, but for participants that partook in the pre-GA process, the actual migration on average for a given LPAR took less than 1 hour. Of course, there's the people and process side of things, the planning, the scheduling, making sure all the subsystem teams are well aware of what's going on and being able to fit and align a plan across all those teams. But the actual migration itself took less than an hour. And part of that is because of the property of not needing to reconvert, reformat, and even sharing the same database as you move from 16 to 17. So with that, I'll take a pause and I'll transition over to John to talk about some of the things that we're considering now that 17 is live.
Thanks very much, Millen. My section of this presentation will be covering where we're going next now that R17 is GA. One of the things that we do rely on is input from you, the customer, to make sure that we're moving in the right direction to solve all your cybersecurity needs. To that end, we do have a portal to be able to submit ideas where me and Millen meet regularly, or I would say semi-regularly, to ensure that we do take care and get back to you on some of your ideas. Now, I will admit there are some old ideas out there that we would love you to refresh and get the voting back up so we can make sure that we're moving in the most current direction to meet all like James' needs going forward. So while we call these big rocks, I like to look at it that even a pebble in your mind may be a big rock to somebody else. So please, whatever ideas you have, definitely submit them so me and Millen can make good decisions and moving to R17 into the wherever we're going next. So we can't make any commitments about next, but think about the legal slide. Couple things that we do want to point out. As I said about a pebble, like one of our customers came to us and they wanted to expand the special characters in ACF2 and top secret passphrases. And this actually goes into the one comment that Millen made about us being just another platform, right? distributed side allows more characters than the mainframe ever did. When you think about it, the mainframe, 8 characters, uppercase only. Well, guess what? We do have phrases now. We allow special characters. We allow mixed case. Well, customers wanted us to expand the special characters that they can be used. So we worked with one customer that actually had all 3 ESMs to actually allow them to use other special characters in phrases without having to code up an exit. So we are close to publishing the ACF2 version. We're working on a top secret version with that customer. So these are the types of things that could look small to one customer, but can turn into big rocks. Another thing that is hot topic on everybody's mind is certificates. The mainframe was notorious that it did not support multiple SANs in certificates when you're generating certificates. You could import certificates with multiple SANs, but not so good on the generation. So we do have work in progress to allow multiple SANs, both in ACF2 and top secret. Again, ACF2 is a little ahead of the curve on this, and we're about to have the APAR ready for that. Please reach out to us if you're interested in this. One thing to note, you notice I said ACF2 was first in both of these cases. We look at it from customer need. If a customer comes to us first for top secret, we will work on top secret first. If a customer comes to us first with ACF2, we will work on ACF2 and then collaborate with both teams to ensure that we're going in the right direction. Another big topic is encryption. If you notice, the third bullet point there is the pervasive encryption of tapes. Pervasive of encryption of data sets has been around for a number of years now. Now we're able to pervasively encrypt tapes. To that end, we did have to make some changes in both ACF2 and top secret to the DFP segment so that you can identify which tapes you would like to pervasively encrypt. This is all part of the quantum direction to ensure that everything is being encrypted to the highest standards possible. If one of the other things I did want to mention, Millen did mention the RCVT changes in R17. One of the things one of our vendors did come to us is they would like us to document and externalize the RCVT in top secret. For whatever reason, ACF2 and RACF had published their RCVT definitions. Top secret never did. We're trying to make sure that we correct that and we are able to move forward with documenting the fields in the RCVT for your access. On the cleanup side, as James said, cleanup is a very, very powerful tool. To that end, though, we do want to keep improving on some of the minor things that have to be improved a little bit. Millen mentioned in his one of his statements that security isn't just looking at rack route verifies auth and fast auth calls. One of the things that also get done in the background are extract calls. We want to improve cleanup to ensure that we're capturing all workloads that could just be doing extract calls to be able to get security settings so that inadvertently we do not delete information that could be just being exploited in an extract call. We have seen maybe one vendor that has been doing this, but we definitely want to plug that little hole to ensure that we're covering every piece and that we don't have outages going forward. The other thing that we have, if you go to the last piece on this page, we have improved the early initialization captures over the years. We do know there is a slight timing window. James made a good point of ensuring that this cleanup started task starts as early as possible, but as you know, these machines are getting faster and faster. We do know there's a slight window that early inits can be missed, so we are looking to ensure that we plug that hole also. So again, we have not had any outages due to this, but we do know that we want to improve both of those pieces going forward. And there's a couple other highly voted items that we definitely want to get to going forward and clean up. Next slide. That is a real fast update of where we're going to go in R17 through the continuous delivery process. Definitely reach out to myself and Millen on any ideas that you may have. One of the things that James touched on is that we got a good roadmap for cleanup as far as the process of cleaning up. Please, if you want to turn on any features or exploit anything like cleanup, we would be more than happy to put working sessions together to ensure that you have a smooth transition to, for example, AES 256, or to implement cleanup. That's what we're here for, and that leads us to the learning opportunities, not only personal, but our education is another thing that is available to you at no extra cost. Please follow this URL and get to the ACF2 and Top Secret Learning. Carrie is one of the lead architects in our education department, that we are continuously improving our education, whether it's instructor-led and or at your fingertips, to be able to lead your own education. There is an MTE badge for those of you that love badges. We have our favorite badges to be able to collect. Please take a look at your sessions, and I guess you can do at least 3 sessions. And please do the surveys, because the surveys do help us make these MTEs more useful and beneficial to you. Because trust me, we get tired of listening to ourselves talk, but for you guys to be able to collect this information and use it and take this back to your teams to ensure that the cybersecurity landscape is stronger and stronger as we go forward. With that, I would like to thank you for your time with whatever time zone you happen to be in. We hope this was beneficial. I want to thank James, especially from a user perspective. It is always cool to see how cybersecurity is affecting and being exploited in everybody's institutions. That also brings me to the fact that if you're interested in us doing on-sites, please let myself and Millen know. We are more than willing to travel. I just came back from Australia visiting customers, so please just reach out to us, and we can come on site and give you a more in-depth discussion on any features that you may be interested in ACF2 Top Secret and Cleanup. Thank you very much.